I mean, I'll start with you, but anybody else can weigh in on this one.
I think, to me, it was sort of a struggle because at one point I was doing a lot of covers, and I got like fan emails and stuff that were like, oh, you're my favorite cover artist, or stuff like that, and it started feeling like, okay, is this what I do now? Am I like an online cover band kind of thing? So I just cold turkey, just dropped it, and it was really weird because from that point, my channel did so much better, like super suddenly. I don't think that would be the case for anyone. I think it was a very special example because I did a lot of new collaborations and stuff. I started, if any one of you have seen, I did some songs with PewDiePie and a bunch of other things. And so my channel really took off when I stopped doing it. But I wouldn't say that that's probably something that you can set in a system, stop doing covers and you'll do better. But yeah, and I actually recently revisited that again. I've started doing a little bit of covers as well, but not like I used to. Like that was such a big thing. Like that was what worked on YouTube, what got people watching maybe like 3 years ago. You know, there were a bunch of big, all these Boys Avenue and Kurt Schneider came through it, if any of you guys know those people. But it's not as like viral anymore as it used to with how YouTube has changed. So I don't say it's as much as a given as it used to be to make covers on YouTube anymore. Yeah.
So if you're gonna stop doing covers, you should definitely do a song with PewDiePie. The next, that's your advice to the members.
It's a good thing.
Sorry, I do have questions on here. I'm not just playing Candy Crush. When you put a cover up, how do you kind of different? I mean, all of you guys have had some success with doing covers. Is there something that you try to do to differentiate it from all of the other covers of, you know, Sam Smith songs and Ed Sheeran songs?
Well, the one I've done recently, I guess you just try and give it your own flavor in a way. It's all about trying to infuse anything you do with your own personality, because emulating something you love is always great, but you want to get your own personality across and make it your own. So I guess that's what I try and do. Try and take what I would do myself and mold the two things together and hopefully come out with a lovely baby.
Yeah.
A lovely cover song baby.
Sure.
The best kind of YouTube works now.
What's that?
The best you make a cover and then you have a baby.
No, that's it. That's the process. I make a cover, have a baby every time. I've got a few now.
It feels like science. Yeah, I think that for me, I started doing covers basically because I was learning how to play guitar, and I was asking my audience to really, I said that really Michigan, asking. I was asking my audience to give me ideas on what I should learn. I was using it as a tool for that, and it's kind of become a consistent thing on my channel, obviously, doing it every Tuesday for the past 10 years. But I think like I'm in a lucky position where I don't have to do crazy production or anything. Like I think the charm of what I do is that I strip it down completely, and it's always just me and an acoustic guitar and vocals. So I can kind of do it anywhere. I can be in a hotel and record a Request Tuesday. But I think like taking a Katy Perry song or taking a Miley Cyrus song and making it like an emotional acoustic ballad is something that I tend to do. Like I just like to infuse emotion into a song that maybe people are dancing to and not paying attention to the lyrics.
Get really emotionless songs.
I like to cry a lot during the Request Tuesdays.
Yeah, I really liked your, there was the Iggy Azalea Fancy.
Yeah.
Your version of Fancy was very like...
Very like ethereal.
It's like if I didn't speak English, I would have thought, oh, this is a really emotional thing, but...
I hope that someone like dances to that, like their first dance at their wedding one day. That's what I'm praying.
Oh, if I wasn't already married, I would have definitely. And then, of course, there's adding Family Guy voices to the covers, which Mikey does.
So yeah, that's what I do sometimes, like I was kind of telling you guys earlier, but yeah, no. The way that I kind of will try to individualize my videos is, like I said, I'll do different voices in, you know, Family Guy voices, South Park, other stuff like that, and I'll sing songs as the characters, and I try to, I don't know, I'll kind of give it a different feel based on which character's singing a different verse. So, you know, it's Stewie Griffin's talking, you know, he's much more uptight, and, you know, he goes back.
He's fucking amazing.
So he's doing stuff like that, then, you know, I'll pick a line based around what I think Stewie could do, and then like different characters like that, so yeah.
That was really, I mean, the one that's probably got the most hits is your Eminem's Rap God.
That was the biggest challenge, probably the hardest video I've ever worked on. I just over and over I listened to the song Rap God, the really fast part that Eminem does, and I worked on it for months. And there was this one comment that said, "You can't do that song. You can't do Rap God." And I just featured it at the very beginning of the video, like watch me kind of thing. And then I did that as Stewie Griffin, and it was probably the fastest I've ever rapped, and it was the hardest I've ever worked on one video. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was very fulfilling. It felt good. Yeah.
But could you do it as Herbert the Pervert?
Probably if I worked on it for a bit. But Stewie's usually my bread and butter. That's usually my
A lot of the whistling stuff. I'm just gonna be whipping you into doing these voices all the time. You know what's funny? And people have said this, probably have said this to you, but I think you kind of look like Seth MacFarlane. Does that?
I've gotten that once or twice. Yeah.
Does that like give you? Do you think that having the similar like facial structure kind of helps you at all?
I think it does. I think there's like a good portion of people who subscribe to me who think I am Seth MacFarlane. I actually make Family Guy. I've seen comments like that, but you know, you just go with it, and it's just, you know, I think that's kind of why I started doing the impressions. The Family Guy impressions was because years ago people were just saying that I look like him, so I just, you know, I started saying one line over and over. That's the story. I just kept saying Morgan Freeman over and over, just Morgan Freeman over and over as Stewie, and then it turned into a whole dictionary of words.
It'd be a shame if something were to happen to Seth MacFarlane and that he couldn't do the voices anymore.
I'll play his son one day in a movie.
But Hannah, I really enjoy what you do. I think you feature your guitar playing really well, which I think is just as impressive as your voice. I feel like that kind of is a nice thing to differentiate some of your covers with, like the Sam Smith one where you're doing sort of a cool like hammer-on thing. I think that's really fun. I don't really have a question for you. I just really like the guitar playing.
Thank you.
When you do a video like that, or I guess it's a question for everybody too, if you're doing a video with multi-cuts, does it matter that do you ever lip sync to a track that you've done before, or is it really important to make sure that the thing that they're seeing is the actual take of you singing? I know like Pamplemousse, they make sure that they're always, even though they're doing a bunch of cuts, they're making sure that it's always the take they're using is the, I'm not explaining this very well. The take they're using is where they're actually singing, and they're never just lip syncing anything. Is that important, or?
I think they're like two different things. I think if you want to go for more of a music video kind of vibe,
sure.
there's no problem with pre-recording and then doing something, making a bit more of the art of the video. But at the same time, if you want something that's a bit more honest, sort of in the moment, I guess. I don't know if you guys would agree. You can do something that's a little bit more down to earth and sort of simple. Yeah. So I think both work.
On that particular video was, because some of the videos I've done before are totally live and just multi-camera, and then that particular video, it was really important for me to be able to get the quality of the tapping, which we recorded that previously in the studio with 5 microphones all around the guitar.
Right.
So that particular video was filmed after. I mean,
you did a good job.
can tell on the video that I'm
trying.
singing. I am singing on the video, but it's, you know, it was pre-recorded because the quality of the music at that point was more important than the quality of the visual. Does that make sense?
And at this point, you've proven that you can actually sing. So
come and see me. I'm on main stage at 2 p.m.
Yeah. You're gonna have to cut out a little bit early for this. If you, like I said before, if you want to get on the guitar and do a little warm up for us, we'd all really love it. Let's see. Now, Megan, you are an excellent vlogger. I would say that you're almost like half and half kind of musician and sort of YouTube personality. You seem very comfortable doing that. Do the rest of you? I mean, the rest of you do it a little bit to some degree, but do any of you feel pressure to have to do that, or are any of you just kind of like, yeah, it'd be great if I could just focus on the music, or is that?
I feel like it's hard to just focus on the music. I mean, people do it, but I feel like YouTube is there's such a culture of like falling in love with a personality that it only helps what you're doing. People fall in love with who you are as a person. They want to support kind of everything that you're doing. So I mean, when I started, I think the first 10 videos, I didn't say a word. I just went right into a song that I was writing or covering. And then I started to realize, like, once you start finding your voice and you realize that you're passionate about certain things and you want to, like, for me, everything I'm doing, I do a lot of body positivity stuff. Anything that I feel passionate about, anything that I feel is like a moment where I can educate or I can make people feel or think or be a little bit kinder, I like to do that, or just be funny. And I think that it's because I don't like doing things, I don't do anything I don't want to do. And so I'm very passionate about making sure that like my channel is almost like a variety show. It's like all the different sides of me. And I think that only influences the music and I think the people that show up to my shows, because they might not really know my music too well, but they're like, oh, you made this video and you said this thing and that stuck with me. So they give me a chance in a way that maybe they wouldn't just seeing a screen cap or something pop up on their Twitter.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's a lot of stuff is about personality these days and having that connection with your audience so they know what kind of person you are rather than just, I mean, obviously music can be emotional, but sometimes people want a little bit more. And I think I've never felt forced to do anything like that, but I think it's nice if you can find something that you're really interested in and you want to speak about. Like for songs, I've started doing videos where I literally dissect the songwriting of a song. I think that can be kind of cool. As long as you're kind of into what you're doing and you feel creatively inspired, then talking can be really cool as well.
And the rest of your band doesn't seem as into it as you.
The rest of my band are not so comfortable with it, no, but you can't expect it to be. Like, we started as a band and then moved more into the YouTube stuff rather than doing it the other way around, and I couldn't really force them. I couldn't be like, oh guys, you need to talk to a camera. It's not so much their thing, but yeah, I understand that. I enjoy doing it, so.
Yeah, you're sort of coming from it from another angle than some of these guys. Like you're signed to a major label, or
no, we have our own label.
Oh, okay. So you don't have. Yeah, I was wondering if when you get in that situation, if there's like a label saying, "Oh, don't vlog so much," or don't say those things. But yeah, it's kind of like you're your own PR. You're your own, instead of people having to wait for you to go on some morning talk show and give a half-hearted interview. You sort of control all that yourself.
Yeah, I think that's really important these days as well. Maintaining that dialogue with your audience, and YouTube's just a brilliant way of doing it. So that's kind of why we went into it.
It's also a dangerous thing too when you're out your own. You don't have like PR or anything like that. You have direct access to when you can tweet whatever you're thinking or feeling. Like, it's a different era, I think, for musicians especially, where it's like you don't have all these people all the time kind of directing what you should do, and I think people become very aware that we are all very human, and you see those moments very clearly on social media. So it's always something to be aware of. But like, I mean, if you're really focusing on a lot of, not necessarily positive, but you're just being honest about things, I think that people appreciate that.
Yeah. So you're not worried about ruining the mystique of the famous vampire killers.
I don't think there is any mystique anymore, really. Yeah. Like when you're on Twitter and you're on Instagram and Snapchat and everything, your life's documented anyway. I mean, kids that are born today will have their birth charted on Facebook. So I think times are changing, and you either accept it and go with it, or you try and sit there and pretend to be a rock star.
This might just be my hang-up because I'm like old as shit. So I remember where the bands had mystique. Rumi, you don't do as much vlogging, do you?
I don't. Well, vlogging, not per se. I think if I do vlogging, I edit it very heavily because I don't believe that I'm entertaining enough maybe to just sit down and talk to a camera and it's gonna be great and everyone's gonna love it. So yeah, like maybe if I'm gonna film, I recently filmed a 2.5 minute long vlog and it took me maybe 4 hours or something. So that's where I'm at with the vlogging thing. I have some friends that have, actually yesterday, Luke is not sexy, Luke here from he promised he's going to teach me how to vlog. So that's going to be interesting. So yeah, I don't really vlog that much. I want to. I guess not good at it. Or like,
I don't believe that.
You get better at it the more you do it.
Awesome.
So we were talking before about covers and how it's sort of hard to monetize those. How the hell does a musician make money nowadays? Do they? Can you? What are I mean,
currently the way that I am making a lot of money is through Patreon, which is like a crowdfunding
Patreon, you said?
Patreon, yeah.
Okay.
So I originally joined like a year and a half ago. I saw my good friend Mike Felzone was doing a podcast, and he was putting out episodes of the podcast and then giving away like perks and things like that for people that donated like $1 or more. And I was like, that's a really cool idea because for me, you know, I write all these songs and then I don't always know if I want to put them on a CD or like whatever. And I don't want to release them and then people want them and then I don't put that on the album. Like, that makes me really nervous. But these songs were kind of going to waste. And so I kind of use Patreon as a place where, you know, I tell them like I'm not going to release more than 4 original songs a month, and I put out, it's like workshopping it with kind of your biggest fans and your biggest supporters, and then they get certain perks associated. Like I send out gift packages and I send out like I get Skype calls and handwritten letters and things like that. So you're like connecting with people that really love your music, and I do a podcast doing it too. But for me, currently, the past few months, I'm able to support myself with just the donations I'm getting on Patreon. And YouTube is always, I think, doing cover music, covers. Now that I'm doing more vlogging and things like that, it's like the AdSense is a little bit more, but I never made a lot of money on YouTube. So it's been very helpful that like all of a sudden these things that I'm kind of doing off of this site are supporting the life. Like I get to be as creative as I want to be, but I get to kind of control that, and it's also not something that everyone's a part of. It's very cool.
Yeah, it almost seems like, in general, a lot of musicians don't have to worry as much about AdSense. I mean, do you guys worry much about AdSense, or is it kind of just part of the deal? Or
that's not the core of where we make our income, really.
Yeah, you're touring mostly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we come in from the other angle, but much like yourself, we have a subscription service and things like that, and that's been really helpful. And we do similar things where we engage directly with our fans and reward them for supporting us in whatever way possible. So yeah, there's a lot of other ways.
According to Antis, let's see. I was on a really, really good deal with the YouTube network. I'm not going to go into YouTube networks, but basically I was paid a lot more for my views than anyone I've ever heard of, and it was crazy. And that deal is over now, but that was what really, that was great for a long time. So that was what paid everything. AdSense paid everything, and still, like, I've saved up that money and still sort of paying for things. But you know, it's still, you know, sponsorship, stuff like that still work as well, of course. And Patreon, I've been wanting to set one of those up. I think for musicians, Patreon's great because people really, really want the content. Like, it's not like, oh, there's a video there, I'll watch it because it's there. It's more like, I really want a new song from this person that I like. And then maybe they're more willing to support economically than they would if I would make 5 vlogs a day on another channel. Maybe not as many people would support me on Patreon. I don't know.
The cool thing about Patreon too is like you're doing everything that you originally would be doing, but then you're kind of like creating like your own little street team where they get like their own gifts and incentives. So it's like, I don't know, it's for me it's been really successful. But yeah, crowdfunding is great. I also think like as a musician, performing live, touring, iTunes, Louder, which I was talking about before, licensing cover songs and things like that. Like, I feel like whenever you're doing anything creative, YouTube music, all these different things, you have, I mean, tax season is the worst because you have like 20 streams of income when you're trying to figure it all out, but it all adds up to kind of make it, as long as you're like hustling and you're constantly finding outlets to be creative, but also ones that financially can kind of contribute to what you're doing, I think you can figure it out.
Hannah, I was talking to you about this before, but I thought you did a really cool sort of product demo of the effects pedal that you use, and I thought you did a really good job of making an entertaining video, but it was still clear, like, oh, she's probably getting paid to do this, but I didn't feel like you were shoving it down her throat. Do you get those opportunities a lot, or how do you negotiate those? Have you had any?
I get the opportunities a lot. A lot of those opportunities I turn down because it's either wrong or it's a crap product that I just don't believe in, or a lot of people can tell when you're trying to sell something.
Yeah.
So that particular video, they sent me the product as a gift, I guess. Like, it's worth a lot of money, but they sent me it and just said, see if you like it, and I thought it was amazing. So that's the reason why I did the video on that. Other opportunities have come along that it's worked and it's been like a music thing that's really relevant to my channel, and it's like a sponsorship paid thing, then I've done that, but I only like to do them when I actually like to do them. So I think like the very first one that I did, I got called out and someone was like, this looks like an advert, and I just thought, yeah, it does. I need to only do things like this, very few and far between of products that I think are incredible that I actually believe in. So, yeah.
Anybody ever else turn down anything or have any experiences with?
Yeah, it's a bit from the band perspective. It's a bit different because obviously when you've got endorsements and sponsorships, it's more about you can't cross promote. So today Gibson are here, but we're sponsored by Fender, so we can't really do much with them, which is a shame because they have that amazing chair thing.
You can't sit in the chair, the guitar chair? Oh, bummer.
But yeah, that's just more political than it is anything than financial with me.
Is that like with an exclusivity deal that you've done with them?
Oh, what, with Fender?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, technically we probably couldn't be sued, but it's more of just like a kind of in good faith thing. I wouldn't want to like, you know, when you're kind of trying to, a brand's helping you out, you don't want to then be like, oh, look at these other really cool guitars. So it's just more being friendly, I guess. But I don't know, like, it must be hard, because I'm sure most of you guys, if someone came up to you and said, have a few £100 and then you tell your mates that this thing's awesome, like, you'd go, yeah, all right, fair enough.
When you first start going and somebody offers you money,
yeah,
it's kind of like, why wouldn't I do this? But then you realise that you shouldn't just do it willy-nilly.
I found that like the few sponsored things that I've done, you kind of just, as long as you make the content, because when we first started getting offered these things, they tended to push us around a little bit, and we realized that we just had to push back and say, look, the audience is going to hate this if it feels like we're slipping something into their food, and if you leave us alone for the video part of it, we will gladly show up at the end of the video and say, hey, this was sponsored by, you know, Almond Joy or whatever the hell, and the audience gets that we need to get paid. But yeah, I think I guess the thing is to not get pushed around. And Mikey, any good?
So yeah, I've been thinking, I'm screwing it up over here at the end, but I don't know if you guys are familiar. I'm sure you're familiar with Jack's Films on YouTube. He's hilarious. Your Grammar Sucks. He's one of the best. Like, that's actually, I found Rumi's channel was through Jack, but one of my buddies told me the other day, he's like, did you see Jack's new video? And I was like, what about it? Well, he was like, the brand deal was legit just the funniest part of the whole thing. And I think that the coolest thing about being a YouTuber that I like to take on, at least, is the challenge of making something like that, like a brand deal, fun and interesting. And if you can make it, you know, over the top and ridiculous, then so be it. So, I mean, Jack's always been able to do that, and it kind of gave me the idea too also.
Yeah, it's almost like sometimes acknowledge, especially with a comedy channel, if you acknowledge it in an almost over-the-top sort of way, it tends to work, as opposed to just trying to hide it. If it's just like Oreos, you know, people are stupid. yeah, exactly.
I feel like you just have to, like, as a creator, you have to advocate for yourself, and like, you have to be passionate enough about what you're doing to really go back to a brand and be a little strict or a little stern with them and be like, yeah, I know you're throwing money at me, but essentially you want access to my audience. I know my audience better than you guys do. That's why you're contacting me to begin with. So like, they have to trust you a little bit. And I think if you're working with a brand that's like completely unwilling to bend, completely unwilling to change, like that's just not the right brand to work with. I think it's like a big deal to, as you're growing your channel, you're doing whatever, that you just advocate for yourself. And whether that's through like working with an MCN or doing like a site, there's like FameBit or things like that where you can actually like negotiate with brands directly, or even reach out to a brand that you see that you like you'd be amazed how many people will answer an email and say, yeah, we would love to work with you, let's figure something out. I think no one's going to work harder for you than you do for yourself, and that's an important thing to remember with any brand deal. At the end of the day, like, brands are going to come and go, money's going to come and go, but you want to make sure that you're doing things in your style with your voice and that it makes sense for your audience.
All right. Well, these are definitely some next level problems. But if we could just go down the row and just, if there's like one piece of advice that you would give somebody starting out in the music business, what would it be? I know that's a cliched question, but I think it's a good one.
Okay, I guess I'd say really think about your own identity and personality, what your audience is going to be, and how you want to present yourself. And I think if you really have this from the start, have a really definite view of where you want to go and what you want to do, then it makes it A, a lot more fun, and B, it makes you kind of tailor your content a lot it makes tailoring your content much easier. So yeah, I'd say just have a kind of vision from the start.
Cool.
I would say trust your voice and don't be afraid to be the first. I think a lot of times, like, I got discouraged early on, looking around and being like, no one looks like me, like no one is doing what I'm doing. Like I was comparing myself to all these people, and be like, I have to have this kind of voice, I have to look this kind of way. And I think at a certain point you have to get beyond that, because if you're interested in seeing something or hearing something a certain way, like you're not the only person that's probably interested in hearing something like that or seeing something like that. So don't be afraid. That's just a general life advice. Don't be afraid to be the first person to do something.
What's the question? To get into the music industry or into YouTube music?
Or just starting out.
Starting out. Wow. I don't know. I'd say try to connect with other creators. I think that's either connect with other creators or do not be by yourself, because that's the trap that I found myself in a lot. I found myself, alone, producing a video, filming everything, editing everything from scratch in the beginning, and it was just like, it really takes a lot of energy and it's not as fun. So I would say, see if you have any friends who want to do the same thing, and you're gonna have a lot more fun. Either if you put together like a collab YouTube channel, or if you do just like help each other out, because that's something that I see with all the, like not all of them, but many creators that are doing well are like sort of in like their friend groups, kind of helping each other out, having fun making videos. And yeah, when you're not doing that, it's just not as fun. When you're not having fun, you're not having fun.
And you're doing more comedy stuff too, which I always think comedy is a little bit more of a team sport. So you really need to bounce those things off each other. I'm sure it's a lot of music too, but you can probably get on a little bit further by yourself as a musician than as a comedian. Yeah,
definitely in the beginning and stuff. I don't know, like at some point you will need something. I mean, that's like a good manager or like a good management team or a label, but I don't know, like in the beginning, probably great you can do it yourself, of course. If you want to do something, hide how much you're auto-tuning your voice or something, so you need to do it yourself so that no one will ever know how you cranked it up to max or something in the studio. But yeah, you're right, of course.
Yeah?
I just my advice to myself has always been quality over quantity. So, like if you spent loads of time on making a really good quality video and it sounds great and it looks great, and then the next video you put out is like really rough and you haven't really rehearsed it very well, and then you just put it out, it really defeats the object, like all of the effort that you've put in before, because your audience will get bored and they will never come back. So for me, like it's more it's actually better to put out less. So I will be doing at the moment, I'm probably doing one music video a month, just because every one of those videos are so thought through and there's a lot of pre-production going on, and that's for me the way to build up a really kind of dedicated fan base, I guess.
Honestly, just have fun. If you're really looking to start making music videos,
I'm sorry, could you give us that advice as Peter Griffin? I don't.
idea. No, but honestly, you've got to have fun. I think most videos that do end up going viral on YouTube that are music videos or anything that's really worked for me, it at least appears like I'm having one heck of a time, which I always am. I'm always happy when I'm doing these types of videos. And when you're having a good time, your audience has a good time. That's the truth. And they like seeing you happy, and you like seeing them happy, and it's a good equation, I think.
I think we're gonna. Does the audience have questions? Okay, we're gonna open it up for questions. This was the first hand I saw over here, guy in the purple shirt.
Hi, I was wondering when you start writing a song, how does the songwriting process go, and especially do you start with lyrics or with music first, or is it different for everything you do, or how does that go?
Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I think everyone has their own method, and I think even as one person, you sometimes try different things. It's very much like trying to find what's right for you. I personally will often to like just be playing around with some chords and some melodies and just kind of garble gibberish and then work out some lyrics later that actually mean something rather than coming up with it on the spot. But as I say, like some people write lyrics first and then write the music to that, or like a poem. It's just really trial and error, man.
I do both together. It usually starts like with a line, and then or me strumming the guitar and figuring out a line, and then I kind of work backwards to figure out what the song's about. So it's a lot of me. Usually I figure out a chorus first, and then I work backwards to the. I've gotten out of the shower before because I just kept humming something over and over again. I was like, well, maybe I'll go back to that later. I think like the minute you start having an idea, like always have your phone on you, always have a notepad, always have some things you can write it down because you never know. There have been songs I started writing, didn't make sense at the time, and then like a year later I had my heart broken. I was like, oh, this is the song for that. So.
Yeah, don't ever think you're gonna remember it.
Oh no, you're never gonna remember it. Always
Get it down.
record it in some fashion.
I think there's two types of songwriting for me. One is like if you really, really feel something that you need to write, and then it's just to go with it, then it can start wherever. And then there's the other kind of thing that's like you sort of try to start off on the other end, like why would people want to listen to this, you know? Because there's so much music out there, so like for something that's going to do well on YouTube, you're going to be like, okay, like how would this be shared and why, and all that stuff. So that's often the end I start with, and then you can sort of build a song around that. You have a good concept, like, you know, why will people share that? Why will people want to listen to it? Is this something many people feel, or is it just, if it's about dating 5 models, maybe all your audience doesn't date 5 models, and they won't be able to identify with a song about dating 5 models, about the problems with that. So,
Yeah, the comedy stuff tends to be a little bit more concept driven than sort of speaking from the heart.
Yeah, and even actually in Sweden, I hung out a lot with like the really songwriting crew who writes for a lot of big artists. I went to like a conservatory for songwriters and stuff in Sweden, and even there, like when you're writing songs as a songwriter, it's always very conceptually, like you conceptualize everything from lyrics to like musical composition and arrangement, and like what's fresh now and how it's gonna work with which singers and what image they have. So it's very, I think even for other music, it's really helpful to think how will this spread and what's the concept. So yeah.
I usually start with concept. All of my songs are concept led. So most of them are, you know, the title is one word and it is that concept, and then I write the music first usually, and then the lyrics around the music.
Yeah, I found that, I mean, I'm not as good of a songwriter as you guys, but I find that if I'm start with the lyrics, the melody tends to be very like if you really focus on the melody first and have like, oh, that's a nice thing to hum, and then almost just fill it in with something, it tends to be a better song, I suppose. And there was this young lady back in the back.
Hi. My name is Rebecca. I run a music multi-channel network called Leica Network.
Hello, Rebecca.
Hello. I'm always curious to hear from musicians who have YouTube channels or successful YouTube channels whether you consider yourself to be a YouTuber or a musician. So that's my question.
Well, I was a musician first, I guess, so this is less for me. I'll put it to these guys.
I consider myself both. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a musician, but YouTube is like a place that I've kind of grown up on, I guess, and it's another way of kind of expressing that. So I don't think that the two have to be completely separated, or that, you know, I think sometimes, especially in the industry, people look down on, in the beginning, look down on people that were YouTube musicians. But I think at the end of the day, if you can show up and play a good show, and you sound like you do in your videos, like, no one can argue with that. So I think it's just about making sure that like what you're doing online, if you even want that kind of career, a lot of people just do videos and don't want to play shows or tour or anything like that. And that's just a different way of doing it and accessing your audience. But if you want to be both, I think it's completely possible.
Amen.
And I think the fact that, I mean, I kind of am more interested in hearing what you have to say as a vlogger because you can sing your ass off. You know, I really love, like
I don't have to be here talking, but I
well, no, I'm not saying, you know, that's nothing against vloggers, but I kind of like hearing people talk about their craft, or I'm just more interested when somebody has like a really discernible talent, that's not just talking to the camera.
But I think they feed into each other too, because I think my ability to make a video about something I'm passionate about and condense that and make that funny or interesting enough to share is something that also influences the way that I write songs and the way that I'm able to take all these ideas and like put it down to a line, you know? And so I think that those things only help each other. Like, and being a musician's only made me a better vlogger, being a vlogger's only made me a better musician.
Cool. Anybody else want to get that one? Or let's get the question here.
Hi, my name is Beth.
Hi, Beth.
It's like, hey,
It's gonna be all right, Beth.
We're here for you.
So, I play bass myself and occasionally guitar. But what would you say about finding the best brand for like the best guitars?
again, maybe a bit of trial and error, I guess. Again, like, it's like different people have completely different preferences, and obviously your budget has something to do with it.
He has to say Fender, right?
I have to say Fender. I obviously it depends how much money you have to start with, because that's always a thing. But different people have different preferences. Try a lot of shit, and the one that you like the most. Doesn't matter what everyone else likes, but if you're cool with it, then there you go.
Yeah, I think try everything out. I mean, I work kind of with Gibson in the sense that like they've sent me guitars, and I'm like, I think they're just trying to woo me constantly. Like, we're gonna bring you over to the dark side because we know you have a Martin and a Breedlove, we know it. But I think you find the instruments that work for you in your price range, and obviously, like, as that goes up, you can get, I guess, better quality. But like some of the best guitars I've played really weren't as expensive as other ones. I think it's just about like figuring out the sound you like, playing around with it, and seeing if it kind of inspires you. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or says about it.
Yeah, sometimes the shittiest guitar will just connect with you. Because I started off with, I had this roommate who had a guitar hanging on his wall as a decoration. He never played. He just, for some reason, and I just picked it off the wall one day, and it's like I don't remember what brand it was, but it was kind of like a knockoff of a Fender Explorer, and that I just still can't find a guitar that plays better than that. It doesn't stay in tune, but I can like shred on that thing. And I've got expensive guitars that I still always want to go back to that one, but it's falling apart. So I mean, you'll hear that a lot of times. Like I think Johnny Ramone for the Ramones played the same crappy guitar forever, and it was just this one guitar. He never played anything else because he just loved that one thing. So don't be afraid to like annoy the guys at the guitar store and just play a bunch. Yeah, I think. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
I have a question. I also have a YouTube music channel. And do you ever have a problem like when you started out and I just have some covers up? Do you ever have a problem that you like kind of afraid to put an original up? Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Or what do you do about it?
I guess it's always quite difficult because you're always worried about rejection, I guess. But unfortunately, that's a side effect of whenever you put anything that you do in the public domain, you're unfortunately vulnerable to that. But all I'd say is you just need to kind of try and gain enough confidence in what you do yourself, and remind yourself that if you love it, then I'm sure other people will. And just because one person might not like it doesn't mean to say everyone does. And it's okay to be upset when people don't like it, because you spend a lot of time and put a lot of love into it. So like, it's always a risk, but it's one that I think is definitely worth taking.
I think you're going to do things that are going to help you grow as a musician that might not be as successful right away or aren't like reaching the audience you want, but I think that's just part of your growth as a musician. Like, that's only going to make you better at what you do. And I'm sure there are plenty of people that come and watch my videos just for the covers, and people that like the originals but don't like the covers, and like you're always going to find a different audience with different things you do. So I wouldn't get too distressed, and it's only going to make you a better songwriter,
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's actually really important that you do put up your own stuff, because I'm not gonna like throw names out there, that's not really, but there's a bunch of people who have gone cover on cover on cover, and then they post originals, and because that's such an alien concept for their audience, like it doesn't take off at all, and it gets much less views. So you gotta sort of let your audience in on that you're actually writing songs as well, because otherwise you're gonna have trouble. I mean, if you do that, if you get your first original out and you have, I don't know, 1 million subscribers, you can be sure that people will be like, what's happening and what is this? This is not a cover I've heard of, or like, and that's happened to a lot of actual cover musicians that have been very successful on YouTube. So definitely get your original stuff out there, even if it's really scary.
I think we have time for one more question. Right here.
And she's vlogging it too.
Hi, my name's Karis.
Better be a good answer.
Hi, channel.
I'm questions for Ruben.
Yeah.
I know that you're working on an album as well, but at the moment you're focusing more on YouTube or kind of both at the same time?
At the moment, I'm sort of. I just signed with a new management that sort of changed my priorities a bit for what's happening right now. I'm working with a management that it's sort of like they manage Avicii and a bunch of other really big acts. So they're like one of the biggest managers in Sweden, and they sort of have a plan for how I should do things right now. So basically, I'm going to do a lot more collaborations short term. So that's sort of what I'm focusing on. I'm going to LA in a few weeks to do some things there. And you're in LA, right? No, you're in New York.
New York.
New York.
I'm the last YouTuber.
Yeah, I was like, we should kind of be. But anyway, so that's sort of my priority right now. Just build YouTube for a bit, and there's original music coming, but I'm sort of taking a lot of work, putting a lot of work down on them being really good. I'm also making a new thing with PewDiePie, so that's also like a collab thing.
It's a good friend to have.
What?
Good friend to have on YouTube.
Yeah, he's so nice. He's everyone's friend, I promise. If you meet him, it's gonna be super nice.
Cool. Just before we go, I want to say Hannah Trigwell is playing. Where are you playing?
Main stage.
Main stage. So everybody should go check her out because she's incredible. And I want to thank you guys for all being so open and honest about everything. And thank you guys. You're a great audience. And I hope you learned something. And we'll see you around.